We turn now to the most pervasive of the Vygotskyan tenets, that development cannot be separated from its social context. For Vygotsky, the social context influences more than just attitudes and beliefs. It has a profound influence on how we think as well as what we think. Vygotsky and his colleagues witnessed the rapid social changes in the Soviet Union that occurred when non-technical cultures, like the Uzbeks of Central Asia, suddenly were expected to participate in the quite technically advanced Western culture of the new empire. Not only was their knowledge base different, but even their way of thinking about experience was different. Vygotsky and his colleagues developed studies to examine how the social context affected the thinking, perception, and memory of the Uzbeks. Like anthropologists who have studied other pre-literate cultures, Vygotsky discovered that Western logic is not universal. Other cultures have ways of classifying and describing experience that differ from ours, but that are appropriate to their environments. These are scenes from Manus, New Guinea in the early 1950s, photographed by Lenora Forstall under the guidance of Margaret Mead. While the content and processes that we use in thinking are culturally determined, Vygotsky did believe that there is a similar structure of the mind in all humans. He believed that there are two levels of mental functioning, lower and higher. The lower mental functions consist of such abilities as reactive attention, reacting to a loud noise or bright-colored objects.
It was also the house of the seven dwarfs.
Associative memory, as when we learn to stop at red lights, and sensory motor thought. These functions are innate, part of our biological heritage, and shared with the higher animals. The higher mental processes are unique to humans, passed down through generations by teaching and learning. Their form varies from culture to culture. Through the passing of cultural tools, such functions as focused attention, the ability to concentrate in spite of distractions, deliberate memory, the ability to remember on purpose, and symbolic thought have been developed and transmitted over millions of generations. Human intellectual evolution has occurred through the passing down of these precious mental tools, which have enabled us to solve such things as abstract mathematical problems. Responding to different environmental forces, different cultures have evolved different tools. Non-literate societies use very different means of storing information than literate ones. Internal mental tools are largely language-based. For instance, mnemonic devices or categories. Young children are in the process of developing internal mental tools and require adult assistance for this process. According to Vygotsky, the whole history of human culture is based on the development of mental tools, primitive external ones to complex ones. We cannot elaborate in this program all the implications Vygotsky's theory have for cross-cultural studies, but they are many. Appreciation of the ingenuity humans have demonstrated in dealing with and transmitting their experiences is basic to understanding Vygotsky's work. Language is both the transmitter of these cultural tools and the most important of them. This brings us to our last proposition. Language plays a central role in mental development. According to Vygotsky, language is a mechanism for thinking, the most important mental tool.
Did you ever see a goose kissing a moose? Down by the bay, down by the bay.
Language is the means by which information is passed from one generation to another. We can see young children learning about rhymes in situations like this. We can think about and discuss things that have happened, will happen, and even things that might never happen with language.
All right, that was beautiful, you guys.
Yesterday I read these two stories to you. The true story of the Three Little Pigs by A. Wolfe, as told to John.
It is through language that all cultures have passed on the higher mental functions that enable us to make sense of our world.
Yesterday we talked about these two stories and how they were alike and how they were different. Who has an idea for today?
In the true story of the three little pigs, the wolf says the true story is about a sneeze and a cup of sugar.
Okay, where would that go?
Up where it says the true story and the three.
Learning always involves external experience being transformed into internal processes through the mediation of language. Language is the medium that carries the experience into the mind. Teaching a new skill, we tell a child what it is we want him to do. Children appropriate the rule and use it independently to regulate their own behavior. Thus, all learning goes through this cycle of exterior and interior prompts, eventually becoming a part of the children's own repertoires.
Now the circles and the colors help us see how these stories are alike and different. At the top, in red, we see ideas that are just about the true story of the three little pigs. For example, the cover is like a newspaper, and the wolf wasn't really bad, he just wanted sugar. In the middle part in purple, these are how the stories are alike. They both have three little pigs and a big bad wolf, and they are both fairy tales. At the bottom in blue, these are ideas just about the three little pigs. It was the pig's version, and the wolf doesn't have a house.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Vygotsky's work reminds us of the processes necessary for children to regulate their own internal and external behavior. Encouraging children to draw what they are experiencing, to talk to each other about it, to write about it, and even to talk to themselves about it, enables them to move towards being independent learners. The aim of Vygotsky's educational practices was to develop an independent, self-regulating individual who could work with others to use the lessons of the past to push the envelope of the present. Understanding the zone of proximal development expands the ways teachers can guide and influence a child's active learning. Vygotsky's analysis of learning can enable children to master their own behavior and to foster what Vygotsky called rousing minds to life.
Isn't it exciting to think that a Russian thinker who was born in the 19th century can enrich intellectual lives of children who will spend the majority of their lives in the 21st century in the country he never visited?